has been okay. Some of it's been very good, and actually the key is when it's very good, it's when he gets the conditions he wants. Now here with the sun beating down on the gorgeous Del Mar track, he has got the conditions he wants. We saw what he can do in America when he ran in the Breeders' Cup meeting 12 months ago. Things didn't go to plan last time out, but with the quick ground and stall 4, I know people will look at it and say Shamey Heffernan's riding, not Ryan Moore, who's Ballydoyle's first jockey. Perhaps this horse is the second string. But I think Lancaster Bomber is a really, really big player in this race, and I think he's a good bet at currently 13-1.
Well, not only talking about his European form as well, Ollie, but in the Woodbine Mile, when he was defeated behind World Approval, he didn't have an easy trip. Now, I know it was a hot pace, and it could have set up for him, but he did not have room until late, and he was bumped several times coming down the stretch. Yeah,
there's lots of reasons to think and sort of argue as to why he could have got a lot closer to World Approval, and who knows, maybe even have reversed the form with him. I certainly think in today's race, I know that they're drawn next to each other in stalls 4 and 5, but I think because of the point you make there, Gabby, the disparity in price between the two, 5-2 currently about World Approval, 13-1 about Lancaster Bomber, where there's obvious reasons as to why the form could be certainly closer if not reversed. I think the disparity is wrong, and that's not taking into account as well arguably the strongest piece of European form, or best European horse, Ribchester, who's a big price at the moment at 7-2. I think the Europeans, as I said it in the previous race when Waheda won, I think the Europeans actually have a stronger hand than the market is currently giving them credit for in this race. I know World Approval's a very good horse and has beaten the likes of Lancaster Bomber, but the likes of Ribchester are some of the best European milers that we have, if not the best, and he's not favourite, which surprises me.
Well, that just goes to show you the value that is in this race, right? If you think that World Approval is vulnerable at 5-2, you're getting a phenomenal price on a horse like Ribchester or any of the Euros. As we let's talk a little bit more about Ribchester here. And he's obviously very talented, but this is his first time stateside here. How do you think he'll translate to the conditions of the turf?
This is a swan song, right, Ollie? And I know the market has been set. He's going the stud at 30,000 pounds. He just raced 2 weeks ago. So I think some handicappers in North America may be taking that into consideration. The quick turnaround, the fact that he's already set his stud fee, and they're looking at that as some alternative angles to use besides the superior form. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's a bit like the Encore for Ribchester in many ways. Come here to Del Mar and have a stab at the Breeders' Cup race. The one thing that would concern me about him, sort of as a general point, is actually in his last couple of starts, he started, to my eye anyway, just to be sort of hanging and look a bit awkward in the closing stages of a race. At Goodwood in the Sussex Stakes, admittedly on ground he would have hated, when the heavens opened and it was very soft, he just didn't look as though his head was in the game. Then last time out at Ascot, where he finished second behind Persuasive, again he had every chance to win, and then closing stages he was wandering over the track a bit. I don't like what I'm seeing, and it does look as though he is coming to the end of his career in many ways, and that's being sort of borne out by his finishing efforts in the run. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it here, but don't be surprised if he does wander around the track late on.
And what about a filly that has been in incredibly good form? That's Roly Poly. And Ollie, she was resilient in her last race. She took pressures from both sides. I mean, it was very impressive. But what do you make of her kind of tackling this field here today?
My concern would be, and she was very tough last time out, but my concern would be that she got a freebie out in front that day. No horse took her on for the lead for the first half of the race. And jockey Ryan Moore got the fractions absolutely spot on. If there is pace elsewhere in and around Roly Poly, and I think there is from Home of the Brave, and I'm sure some of the local runners will move forward, but if she's taken on early, I don't know whether she's got that instant kick late on to steal a march on the field. I think she might be susceptible to a closer in this race. Added to that, I'm not sure she'll get an easy time of it out in front. She's a likeable filly, but not for me today.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough post to kind of work out a trip from, especially given the amount of speed that's posted closer to the rail. They're going to have the jump on her and have that tactical advantage. Joe, do you see any other North American or stateside horses that could have a strong hand in here, or do you think it's just World Approval carrying the torch?
Well, I thought Midnight Storm ran great going 1 1/8 last time on the Awesome Again. Galloped out in front of Muptahij, who was the race winner, but like you said, probably is going to go from the rail. So To me, the intrigue is the battle early with Midnight Storm, Heart to Heart, and potentially Roly Poly.
Well, we met the mark over $4.2 million in that late pick 4. Will the Breeders' Cup Mile go to the Euros, or will it go to the Americans? We'll find out in just a moment as we head up to Trevor Denman for the rest of the load and the call.
Ribchester in the blue going up. Ribchester's in. Coming forward now. Villar Rocks in the green sleeves goes in. Here's Roly Poly the filly. Roly Poly in. Carrar to the outside gate. Carrar going in. Blackjackcat and Kent Desormeaux to complete the lineup. Blackjackcat goes in. All set for the Breeders' Cup Mile. And away they go. Heart to Heart bounced out quickly, one from the rail. Midnight Storm at the rail. Those two very fast. World Approval, the grey. Now here come the outside horses. Home of the Brave in the white cap. Suedois in the red joins the vanguard too. World Approval, the grey, tucks in behind as Lancaster Bomber moves through at the rail. Couldn't get going much quicker than this for a mile. Armour's back in the green cap, 6 off them, and Zelzel scrapes paint. Right in behind that now comes Ribchester, being asked to pass some of the back markers, which he is willingly. Ribchester's 6 off the leaders. Then we come back to Mr. Rory, Blackjackcat. In behind them comes Villar Rocks, 8 off the leaders. Carrar is taken back towards the rear, and at the back Roly Poly, the filly, has 10 to make up. They have a half mile to go now, and Midnight Storm at the rail and Heart to Heart the 2 leaders. Home of the Brave on the far side. Lancaster Bombers right there at the rail. World Approval is the grey. Suedois in the red on the far side is starting to make headway too. Down at the rail, Zelzel was in a little tight, had to drop back a bit. Ribchester now ridden along. Blackjackcat making a run, extreme outside. Blackjackcat is now coming to tackle the leaders as well. They come for home, it's wide open. Heart to Heart, Midnight Storm, World Approval is in there. Suedois in the red, Blackjackcat is in there as well. Lancaster Bomber down at the rail. Late run from Carrar on the outside. World Approval the leader. World Approval coming home gamely, and World Approval will win. World Approval won it very close for second. Lancaster Bomber, all Blackjackcat, 4-way photo for third.
World Approval takes down the Breeders' Cup Mile, and guys, he could have not gotten a better trip in there. Obviously, they set pretty decent fractions in front of him. Johnny Velasquez, perfect trip, tucking him behind the speed.
We expected the 2 from the inside to go out and wing it, and they did. 22 and change to the opening quarter. But a little bit surprising, Ollie, was the fact that Roly Poly wasn't anywhere close to the early pace, made a huge move wide on the turn, rallied belatedly, but did not impact the closing finishers.
Yeah, it was a surprise. She always leads in Europe. She just missed the kick by a fraction, and it meant that Ryan Moore had to take back. To me, she didn't really look like she was racing she was racing lazily, I thought, for the first half of the race. I don't know whether it was necessarily by design to be as far back as she was. Never got in the race. Lancaster Bomber has run well in defeat for Cormer. I think getting second is Lancaster Bomber. And on the outside as well, the 13 horse Blackjackcat. But World Approval, I mean, not only do you look at this horse and sort of fall in love with him because of his appearance, everyone loves a nice grey horse, don't they? But you fall in love with him because of his ability as well. This was a really good effort from this horse. It's
interesting because obviously they've campaigned him going longer distances, the 1.25 miles. He's a grade 1 winner at a 1.25 miles, but it just looks like it's, in hindsight, it looked like it kind of took the punch out of him, and that's what we're seeing from him at the mile.
Yeah, it's so dangerous when you've got natural speed, but you've got the ability to run further like he has, and we have a 5-4-13 result. Lancaster Bomber. Hey, if you're a fan of the Rico Woodbine Mile, play the same exact back, yeah, you're in pretty good shape.
It was pretty productive, that's for sure. But A good move from Lancaster Bomber. I mean, it kind of wasn't easy for some of these horses towards the inside to navigate through some of the traffic coming down the stretch.
Yeah, it was a brave move as well, because we've seen a few jockeys try and go down the inside lane and just there not being inside lane to go down, but Shamey Heffernan was brave. He took his medicine for a few strides and then went on the inside with Lancaster Bomber, who travelled powerfully into the race. But it just goes to show that although we could look at that run at Woodbine and say that Lancaster Bomber might have been a bit unlucky, I think this answers the question. World Approval deserved to win that day, deserved to win this day, and World Approval fundamentally is a slightly better horse than Lancaster Bomber, who's run well in defeat once again, but once again was chasing the tail of the grey.
Well, it just goes to show you sometimes how advantageous it is to be a tractable type of horse at the flat mile, especially at a configuration like Del Mar. But a good weekend for Johnny Velazquez, taking down the Distaff yesterday and getting the Breeders' Cup Mile today.
And as a gelding and as a 5-year-old, who knows how many more years we'll see of quality racing from World Approval. He's peaked at the age of 5. He's found a new niche. He is dangerous in all these races because he's speedy but also tactical. He gets first run, and he's just tough as nails right now.
And he's beaten a good field there. The European horses, as I say, came into the race. Ribchester, who will retire now, that horse is a multiple Group 1 winner in the UK. Suedois is a Group 1 winner, Grade 1 winner from last time out. Roly Poly is a Group 1 winner last time out. And Lancaster Bomber is a multiple Group 1 performer throughout his career and a runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year. Now, I don't know whether it's something that Connections would think about, but given the strength of European horses that World Approval's beaten there, I'd love to see this horse come over on the international stage and maybe line up at a meeting like Royal Ascot in the Queen Anne. There's talk that the Australian horse Winx, who's a superstar, might come to Royal Ascot and run in that race. That's over the mile, on the straight course, maybe go for a round mile race for World Approval. But if that is possible, and I'm going to put the plea in now, if you can come to Royal Ascot, we would absolutely open our arms and welcome that horse to that meeting in front of Her Majesty the Queen.
Solid recruiting pitch.
That was
well we
done.
saw Tepin do it, didn't we? We've seen Tepin do it.
Same connections.
And same connections. And I think in terms of his ability,
Same trainer.
Same
Live
trainer.
Oak versus Mr. Robert Masterson.
same trainer. So it worked with Tepin, and I'd love to see it happen, because on that piece of form, he'd be near the top of the market if he lined up in a race at Royal Ascot over the mile. He's a very good horse.
That he is. There is your unofficial results with the 5 World Approval, the 4 Lancaster Bomber, Blackjackcat, and Suedois, rounding out that superfecta. And it's been kind of an interesting thing in terms of the pedigree here. This is a homebred for Live Oak Stud, Live Oak Plantation, and Mrs. Charlotte Weber has a lot of experience with the bottom side of the family, and this mare has produced multiple millionaires, and obviously he's just one to tack onto the list.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome when you see a mare that can just continue to be a high quality producer like this, full after full after full after full. It's a rarity.
And these are your Twin Spires payouts, your official results as we kicked off the late pick 4. We're going to step aside. We'll be back right after this.
I think Outwork is one of the best looking stallions in Kentucky, period. I think he's an exceptional physical. We bred close to 15 mares to him in his first crop. He fits a lot of the population of mares. You can breed Stormcat Line to him, you can breed AP Indy to him, you can breed any kind of mare to him. And for all those reasons, I think he's got a terrific shot to be a successful stallion.
Racing is, in fact, a family, and the family centers around the horse.
In order to work on the racetrack, you really have to love horses. When you're working with the horse every day, you care for this horse, and you want to do what's right for the horse.
I find them to be very regal and very noble. They teach you about yourself. They mirror your emotions back to you.
When you trust them and they trust you, there's nothing like it.
So it's really important for people to be involved in this sport who love horses, who care about horses, and are willing to put that extra mile into doing the right thing.
All set for the Breeders' Cup Mile, and away they go. Heart to Heart bounced out quickly, one from the rail, Midnight Storm at the rail. Those two very fast. World Approval, the grey. Now here come the outside horses. Home of the Brave in the white cap. Suedois in the red joins the vanguard. 2. World Approval, the grey, tucks in behind as Lancaster Bomber moves through at the rail. Couldn't get going much quicker than this for a mile. Armour's back in the green cap, 6 off them, and Zell scrapes paint. Right in behind that now comes Ribchester, being asked to pass some of the back markers, which he is willingly. Ribchester's 6 off the leaders. Then we come back to Mr. Rory, Blackjackcat. In behind them comes Ballard Rocks, 8 off the leaders. Carrara is taken back towards the rear, and at the back, Roly Poly, the filly, has 10 to make up. They have a half mile to go now, and Midnight Storm at the rail, and Heart to Heart, the 2 leaders. Home of the Brave on the far side. Lancaster Bombers right there at the rail. World Approval is the grey. Suedois in the red on the far side is starting to make headway too. Down at the rail, Zell was in a little tight, had to drop back a bit. Ribchester now ridden along. Blackjackcat making a run, extreme outside. Blackjackcat is now coming to tackle the leaders as well. They come for home, it's wide open, Heart to Heart, Midnight Storm, World Approval is in there. Suedois in the red, Blackjackcat is in there as well. Lancaster Bomber down at the rail. Late run from Carrara on the outside. World Approval the leader. World Approval coming home gamely, and World Approval will win. World Approval won it very close for second. Lancaster Bomber, all Blackjackcat, 4-way photo for third.
And to present to the winning connections of World Approval, Charlotte Weber, we have multi-platinum singer, songwriter, author, and philanthropist, Jewel.
Hi, congratulations. This is incredible. Very glad to be here.
Charlotte, I must ask you, what an incredible mare to produce 4 millionaires, including World Approval. But talk to me a little bit about how rewarding it is for you as a breeder to see these horses grow up and perform like World Approval just did today.
It's absolutely the best thing to have everybody from the farm and this whole racing team together celebrating. I can't even begin to tell you where the butterflies start and stop.
Were you quite nervous before today?
Of course. Absolutely. Wouldn't you be?
Always. I think I'm still nervous. Take me through your emotions as he's coming down the stretch. You won this race back in 2006 with his half-brother, knowing that he could get it done today.
Well, coming down the stretch, I was a little nervous. I saw Johnny was sort of between horses, and I was like, oh, I think my boy likes to be out front. So when he got when he was clear, he went. So I was very happy.
And as a gelding, could we possibly be doing this again next year?
Never can tell.
Congratulations. A big win here in the Breeders' Cup.
And that would be with Johnny on board.
Got to keep Johnny on board there. World Approval. A big win here for the Cassie family and Charlotte Weber.